you know what the triangle said to the circle? You're pointless. Trump, Mueller, Cohen, Manafort, Putin, Flynn, Trump Jr., Comey, Rosenstein. You've heard of all of these names a billion times over the past year, and by now, you probably know that the Justice Department is investigating Russian attempts to interfere in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump's chances and to hurt Hillary Clinton's chances. But the truth is that this investigation, which is being led by Robert Mueller, a former head of the FBI, has so many subplots and so many major and minor characters that it's starting to feel a little bit like watching Game of Thrones. You kinda, sort of have a vague memory that the guy talking on your TV screen is important, but you can't totally place him or remember exactly why he matters so much. Sidebar. It took me years to get the whole Bronn versus Bran thing down. The former is a guy who pals around with Jaime and Tyrion Lannister. The latter is the son of Ned Stark. Boom! Haha! Nailed it. 10 out of 10. 8 seasons in. With nearly 200 criminal counts already brought against defendants so far in the Russia probe, even old George R.R. Martin would be confused. So here's my attempt to make sense of it all. And I'm gonna do it in just under 30 minutes. Now, this whole thing started because George Papadopoulos, a relatively minor foreign policy advisor to Trump, bragged to an Australian diplomat while out drinking in London in May 2016, as one does, that the Russians had dirt on Hillary Clinton. So a couple months later, the website WikiLeaks started publishing emails that had been stolen off the Democratic National Committee's servers. The Australians then alerted their American counterparts to what Papadopoulos had said all the way back in May. The FBI opened an investigation into Russia's possible attempts to meddle in the 2016 presidential election. That's the origin story. Mueller comes into the picture in May 2017. He's appointed by Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein to take over the FBI investigation as special counsel. Why? Because a week earlier, Trump had fired James Comey as FBI director. Comey had been leading the Russia investigation, and there was lots of talk that Trump was trying to end that investigation by removing Comey. So putting Mueller, a registered Republican who had been appointed to the FBI by both a Democratic and a Republican president, in charge of the investigation was regarded as the best way to get to the bottom of all of this, whatever this was. Now, Mueller's task was both simple and pretty broad. Number one, to investigate Russian interference in the election. Number two, to look into whether anyone on the Trump team colluded with the Russians to help get their candidate elected. And number three, quoting from the memo that established the special counsel, quote, to prosecute federal crimes arising from the investigation of these matters. Now, let me take a moment here to make an important note. No collusion. I repeat, no collusion. I kid, but not really. The president's almost manic insistence that there was never any collusion between him and the Russians is indicative of the broader efforts by Trump and people close to him, Rudy Giuliani, I'm looking at you, to spin this whole probe into nothingness. But facts are facts, and the facts are these. 192 criminal charges have been brought by Mueller against 36 people and entities. 7 people have pleaded guilty, and many of those have flipped, cooperating with the investigation, including the aforementioned Papadopoulos, Deputy Campaign Chairman Rick Gates, former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, and Trump's longtime lawyer and personal Michael Clayton figure, Michael Cohen. The vast majority of that group pleaded guilty to lying to federal authorities or Congress, or both, about the nature and extent of their contacts with the Russians. Flynn, for instance, lied about his conversations with Russian officials during the presidential transition. Cohen lied to Congress about when he stopped talking to the Russians about the possibility of building a Trump Tower Moscow. Look, you get the picture. What we know for a fact is that lots of people, some very close to Donald Trump, others merely in his campaign periphery, have lied about their contacts with Russia. The other fact that we know for sure is that Russia actively sought to interfere in the 2016 presidential election to help Trump and hurt Clinton. How do we know that? Because no matter what Donald Trump says or tweets, the U.S. intelligence community unanimously confirmed that fact in early 2017. What we don't know is, well, a lot. We don't know whether or not Mueller has found any evidence that someone or someones in the Trump campaign colluded with the Russians. We do know that Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and Manafort met with the Russians in June 2016, lured by the promise of dirt on Clinton. But that's not definitive proof of much. We don't know whether or not Mueller has found any evidence that Trump tried to obstruct justice by firing Comey to get in the way of the Russia investigation. Now, we do know that Comey said in his sworn testimony to Congress that Trump asked him if he could find a way to let this go in reference to the investigation into Flynn. We also don't know when Mueller is planning to wrap this all up. Trump and his Republican allies have been subtly, and not so subtly, exerting public pressure on the special counsel to bring this all to an end. Mueller has, to date, completely ignored that pressure campaign. In fact, he's been almost totally silent since being appointed as special counsel. Hell, he's barely been seen in public, except for that one time he was sitting at the airport waiting for his gate to be called. We've all been there, Bobby. Do your friends call you Bobby? Where does all of this leave us? It leaves us with a lot of smoke, like so much that you can barely see right in front of you, and a president who asks us all to ignore it, insisting that he is the real victim here. And that is The Point. The Point comes out twice a week, every single week. Make sure to check out new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.